Have you ever wondered what you would do to survive alone? Imagine exploring a beautiful canyon without telling anyone your exact location. You carry some food, water, climbing equipment, and a small camera. You feel confident because you have explored difficult places before. Then one terrible moment changes everything about your life forever. A huge rock moves and traps your arm against another stone. You cannot move your arm, and nobody knows where you are. You have no phone signal and no immediate way to escape. Your water supply is becoming smaller with every passing hour. This was the terrifying situation faced by Aron Ralston. Aron Ralston was born in the United States in 1975. He grew up in Indiana and later moved toward outdoor adventures. Aron became interested in climbing, hiking, skiing, and exploring mountains. He loved challenging himself in difficult natural environments across America. He eventually moved to Colorado, where he worked and climbed often. His passion for adventure became an important part of his identity. Aron also enjoyed exploring remote places far from busy cities. He understood that outdoor adventures could contain serious dangers. However, one trip would become much more dangerous than expected. The journey began during a sunny day in Utah. In April 2003, Aron decided exploring a remote canyon alone. The canyon was located inside Canyonlands National Park in Utah. The area contained beautiful rocks, narrow passages, and steep cliffs. Aron had visited the region before and felt comfortable exploring there. He carried limited food and water inside his backpack that day. He also carried climbing equipment and a small video camera. However, he did not tell anyone exactly where he was going. This decision would later become extremely important for his survival. Aron entered the canyon without knowing what waited ahead. He walked through the narrow canyon while enjoying the beautiful landscape. The huge red rocks surrounded him from every direction. The area was quiet because very few people visited that location. Aron continued moving deeper into the canyon during the afternoon. At one point, he needed climbing through a narrow rocky passage. A large boulder rested between two tall canyon walls nearby. Aron stepped carefully around the massive rock while moving forward. Then the boulder suddenly shifted under his weight. In one terrible moment, the massive rock fell against him. The boulder trapped Aron's right arm against the canyon wall. He immediately tried pulling his arm away from the rock. He pushed against the stone using all his available strength. But the massive boulder would not move from its position. Aron tried different positions and methods to free his arm. Nothing worked, and the rock remained completely immovable. He soon realized his situation was extremely serious. Nobody was nearby to hear his calls for help. Aron was completely alone inside the remote canyon. At first, Aron believed he could somehow move the boulder. He pushed, pulled, and tried changing his position repeatedly. He used his climbing equipment to create different methods for escape. However, every attempt failed after several exhausting minutes. The rock was simply too heavy for him to move. Aron also realized that nobody knew exactly where he was. His friends and family expected him returning after his adventure. But they did not know which canyon he had entered. There was no reliable way contacting them from underground. Aron now faced a terrible race against time. The first night arrived while Aron remained trapped beside the boulder. Temperatures dropped as darkness covered the canyon around him. Aron tried staying warm while protecting his limited energy. He carefully considered how much water remained inside his bottle. He knew dehydration would eventually become extremely dangerous. His food supply was also very limited for a long emergency. Still, Aron refused accepting that his situation was hopeless. He continued searching for another possible way to escape. But the next day would make everything even more difficult. Aron began recording messages with his small video camera. He spoke about his family and explained what had happened. These recordings became emotional evidence of his desperate situation. He hoped someone might eventually discover the camera and understand. He also carved information into the rock beside his position. Aron recorded the date and estimated his remaining survival time. Every hour made his body weaker and his options smaller. He knew rescuers might never find him in time. Then Aron made a decision that seemed completely impossible. He realized the boulder could not be moved by human strength. He also realized remaining trapped would eventually lead to death. His water supply continued becoming dangerously low each hour. The canyon remained completely isolated from ordinary human activity. Aron began considering an extreme option for survival. It was an option that almost nobody could imagine choosing. He would need extraordinary courage to even consider it seriously. But Aron still had one possible path toward freedom. Aron had now spent more than 1 day trapped underground. His right arm remained completely pinned beneath the enormous boulder. He had tried almost every possible method to move the rock. Nothing worked, and his physical strength continued disappearing slowly. His water supply became one of his greatest concerns. He knew dehydration could kill him within several dangerous days. The canyon remained silent except for occasional natural sounds. No hikers appeared, and nobody knew his exact location. Aron understood that waiting for rescue could mean certain death. He began thinking about his family and friends constantly. He imagined what would happen if he never returned home. Those thoughts gave him both sadness and determination. He wanted surviving because he still had a future ahead. But his trapped arm seemed to make survival impossible. The boulder had created a situation with almost no options. Aron carefully examined his equipment and remaining supplies. He wondered whether his climbing tools could help somehow. Unfortunately, they could not move the massive rock enough. His situation demanded an extraordinary decision. Aron eventually considered amputating his own trapped arm. The thought was terrifying because he had no medical training. He also had limited equipment and almost no medical supplies. Performing such an operation alone could cause fatal bleeding. However, staying trapped could also eventually cause his death. Aron spent hours thinking about the terrible choice ahead. He did not make the decision quickly or without fear. He understood that either choice could have deadly consequences. Finally, survival became more important than fear. Aron began preparing himself mentally for the difficult procedure. He tried understanding exactly where the bone and joints were located. He realized the boulder had trapped his arm against the rock. He needed finding the safest possible place for amputation. His tools were simple and never designed for medical surgery. The situation was extremely dangerous from the beginning. Still, Aron believed this might be his only chance. He knew he needed escaping before his remaining strength disappeared. Then he began the painful process. Aron first used tools to work around the trapped arm. The process took a very long time and required enormous effort. He eventually realized that the bone itself remained impossible breaking. He needed finding another method to free his arm. Aron continued working despite severe physical and emotional stress. Every movement caused intense pain and consumed valuable energy. He stopped several times to rest and think carefully. The process was slow because his equipment was extremely limited. But eventually, Aron managed doing something extraordinary. He successfully freed his trapped arm from beneath the boulder. The exact details of the procedure are extremely difficult hearing. Aron later explained the experience during interviews and public appearances. His decision was based on one simple goal: survival. He had spent approximately 5 days trapped inside the canyon. His body was severely dehydrated and physically exhausted by then. Yet his determination remained stronger than his physical weakness. Freedom was finally possible, but danger was not finished. Aron still needed escaping the remote canyon by himself. He could not simply walk out after freeing himself. He had lost the use of his right arm. The canyon contained steep cliffs and difficult climbing sections ahead. He needed using his remaining strength and climbing equipment carefully. Every step became more difficult because of dehydration and exhaustion. Still, Aron began moving away from the place of his captivity. He left behind the boulder that had trapped him. After approximately 127 hours, Aron was finally moving again. He climbed and walked through the canyon despite his condition. His body desperately needed water, food, and medical treatment. Aron continued toward areas where he believed other people might travel. Eventually, he encountered a group of hikers in the distance. This moment changed everything about his chances of survival. He managed reaching the hikers and explained his desperate situation. The hikers immediately understood that he needed emergency medical assistance. They contacted rescuers and helped Aron while waiting for professionals. After nearly 6 days, help had finally arrived. Rescue teams reached Aron and transported him for emergency medical care. Doctors treated his severe dehydration and serious physical injuries. He had survived one of the most extraordinary survival situations imaginable. His story quickly attracted attention across the United States. People were amazed by the decision that had saved his life. But Aron later explained something even more important. He did not consider himself fearless during those terrible hours. He was terrified, but he chose to keep fighting. After rescuers found Aron, doctors treated him for severe dehydration. His body had suffered enormous stress during those difficult days. Doctors also treated the serious injury to his remaining arm. Aron's survival surprised many medical professionals and outdoor experts. He had spent nearly 6 days trapped inside a remote canyon. He had survived with very little water and almost no help. Most importantly, he had found a way to escape alive. His incredible story soon reached people around the world. News organizations began reporting Aron's extraordinary survival story. Television programs invited him to discuss his terrifying experience. People wanted understanding how someone could survive such an impossible situation. Aron explained that fear was present throughout his experience. He did not believe courage meant feeling no fear at all. Instead, courage meant continuing despite feeling completely terrified. His story became an example of extraordinary human determination. But Aron did not want becoming famous only for tragedy. After recovering, Aron returned to many activities he loved. He continued climbing and exploring difficult outdoor environments. He learned how to adapt to life after losing his arm. Modern prosthetic technology helped him return to physical activities. He eventually became an experienced speaker and author. He shared his story with audiences around the world. His message focused on preparation, courage, responsibility, and personal choices. He encouraged people taking outdoor safety much more seriously. His experience also taught one painful lesson about preparation. Aron had entered the canyon without telling anyone his exact location. That decision made his rescue much more difficult and uncertain. After his accident, he changed how he approached outdoor adventures. He began emphasizing the importance of sharing travel plans. He also encouraged carrying reliable communication and emergency equipment. Small preparations can become extremely important during unexpected emergencies. His experience showed how quickly an ordinary adventure can change. A beautiful landscape can become dangerous within seconds. Aron's story later became the subject of a famous book. His memoir described the accident and his long struggle surviving. The story eventually reached an even larger audience through cinema. In 2010, the movie 127 Hours was released worldwide. Actor James Franco portrayed Aron Ralston in the film. The movie showed the emotional and physical challenges of his experience. It introduced millions of viewers to Aron's remarkable survival story. The film received strong critical attention and several award nominations. But the real Aron continued living beyond the movie. He became an important example of resilience and adaptation. He continued challenging himself despite his permanent physical injury. He also became a father and continued building his life. His experiences changed how many people viewed survival and disability. Aron demonstrated that losing part of your body does not end life. A person can adapt, change goals, and continue moving forward. His story became about much more than one terrible accident. It became a story about choosing life. The most famous part of Aron's story remains extremely difficult. He faced a decision that almost nobody wants imagining. He had to choose between remaining trapped and attempting escape. His choice involved enormous pain, fear, and personal sacrifice. But his goal remained simple throughout the entire experience. He wanted returning home and seeing his family again. That simple desire helped him continue when everything seemed impossible. After 127 hours, he finally walked toward freedom. Aron's story also reminds us about the power of preparation. People exploring remote places should always tell someone their plans. They should carry enough water and appropriate emergency equipment. They should understand the environment before entering dangerous locations. And they should never underestimate seemingly simple outdoor adventures. Aron learned these lessons through one of life's most painful experiences. His story continues helping others understand those important risks. The canyon took his arm, but it did not take his life. Today, Aron Ralston remains known around the world for his survival. His story continues inspiring people facing difficult situations in life. It shows how powerful determination can become during extreme circumstances. It also shows why hope can matter during impossible moments. Aron entered the canyon looking for adventure and beautiful scenery. He left it with a completely different understanding of life. His experience changed his body, his priorities, and his future. Yet he continued living with remarkable courage and determination. Sometimes survival means making the hardest decision imaginable. And sometimes, the strongest choice is simply choosing to live. Aron Ralston made that choice after 127 terrifying hours. His story remains one of the most incredible survival stories ever told. A man entered a canyon alone, and came out with a second chance.